see is quite a lot going on in chapter 7. Basically, what's going on here is that they play a game at dinner. Tell me, in the middle of the chapter, I don't have the right page for you. Bible, it's 121. You know mathematics? My son tells me you're good at mathematics. Yeah, there's a movie made about this book, and you can hear some of the accents in the movie if you hear some of these lines, because the movie follows pretty closely the book. You can get it at the tape store. Who plays Daddy? Pretty well-known Hollywood actor. Anyway, so you know Hebrew, son of David Malter, he knows Hebrew? Yeah, he does, and so on. Well, the game is that he gives passages from the Talmud, their religious study book, and they talk about these passages, but the father deliberately makes a mistake. And the key is that the son is supposed to pick up on the mistake, be able to trip up, the father, to show the father, to know where the father makes a mistake, so that the son can show that he knows as much or more than the father. And so Danny's father does this to Reuben too. And I think Reuben, being a pretty good student himself, picks up on the mistake, and Danny's father is really impressed by that. So he's talking about this further along, this code that they have here. The world kills us. The world flays our skin from our bodies. The world laughs at Torah. This is the Danny's dad talking. But Torah is the law. But if you study it, then there's this secret code, gematria, he talks about, which is writing it back to front. That's where they get things like the Bible code, which was a famous book recently. And he talks about how these codes work, and it turns out that Reuben knows something about these things. Okay, so towards the end of the chapter, they pick up on the mistake, and after it's all done, Danny goes home, Reuben goes home, and he's sitting at the table with his father at the end of that chapter. I sat at the kitchen table and slowly told my father everything that had taken place at Reb Sanders' house the page before the end of that chapter. He sipped his tea and listened. I spoke about this gematria, this numerology, this secret code that they have, and the tricks that they play. It was a terrible experience, he tells his father. My father shook his head, no, it's not terrible, Reuben. Not for Danny, not for his father, not for the people who listen. It's an old tradition. These games that they play, and so on and so forth. It just seemed cruel to me, Reuben said. My father, yeah, it's a little cruel, but that's the way the world is, and so on. So they discuss it, and they have a pretty good talk. Well, as the book continues, it turns out that these two become fast friends, and Danny's father communicates with his son through Reuben. I think he explains this a little bit in chapter 8. I don't know if I can find it for you, but it's around, it's in chapter 8, 2 pages before the end of chapter 8. Reb Sanders looked at me and sighed. Reuben, he said, I want you to hear me. No one lives forever. My father led his people before me, and my grandfather before that, and my great-grandfather before that. 6 generations we've led our people. I'll not live forever. Daniel will take my place one day. Does his son want to take his place? As it turns out, he doesn't. And finally, it's going to be the younger brother who's going to take his place. That's what's going to happen at the end of the book. Danny's going to go shave off his beard, his forelocks, shave off his, whatever it is that distinguishes him as a Hussid, and he's going to go across the East River like Walt Whitman to Manhattan from Brooklyn. This is Walt Whitman's world, as you see, here in Brooklyn. And he's going to go to Columbia University and study psychiatry because of the influence of Reuben's father on him. But the dad doesn't know this at the moment. He knows his son is suffering a crisis of conscience. Then he went on in a hoarse little voice. My son is my most precious possession. My most precious possession. great book for people who want to learn maybe how fathers should treat sons, wives who feel that their husbands aren't treating their sons properly, or daughters properly, their children properly. Give this book to your husband or your future husband to read. Maybe he'll calm down a bit and not knock people around too much. Maybe he'll pay the bills that he's supposed to pay in order to take care of his children. This is a great book for that kind of thing. I think you'll all agree with that.